We're now with MTA, the Metropolitan Transit Authority. We have council members Pridemore and Stein with us. And Ed, if you could introduce yourself and your colleagues and then make whatever presentation you'd like to make.
Thank you, Mayor. I am Ed Oliphant, the interim CEO for MTA. To my right, I have Gail Williams, one of our board members in charge of the Finance and Audit Committee. Next to me, I have the board chair, Jeff Yarbrough. And to my left, I have Jim McAteer, our planning director. And actually behind me, I have board member Freddie O'Connell, our planning and marketing committee chair, as well as several members of senior management and admin staff. Thank you. Mayor Dean, Deputy Mayor Highnote, and Finance Director Riebling, I'm honored to be sitting here this afternoon on my first day as interim CEO for MTA to talk about what's going on.
Usually when you come, Ed, we talk about fuel hedging or something. That's what you speak of.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh, right.
April Fools, that's right. To talk about transportation in Nashville and Middle Tennessee. It might appear that with the exit of our CEO, Paul Ballard, that RTA and MTA would be beginning a new era, but that couldn't be any further from the truth. While Paul's day-to-day input will certainly be missed, his vision for transportation is well ingrained in the senior management and the admin staff. And I believe with a solid board of directors, we can only see continued progress in the future. Mayor Dean, I do want to thank you for your consistent leadership in transit issues in Nashville and Middle Tennessee. From your leadership of the Middle Tennessee's Mayor's Caucus, your chairmanship of the Regional Transportation Authority, your monthly rides on different bus routes for your Mayor on Board program, to your personal commutes to and from your office on the number 7 Hillsborough neighborhood bus route, you've demonstrated a personal commitment to public transportation as well as your commitment as your role as Chief Executive Officer for the city. Your leadership with the continued support of Metro Council has allowed transportation in Nashville and Middle Tennessee to become increasingly relevant in helping the region to grow, to reach levels of service and ridership that has not been achieved in modern times. For the last 2 fiscal years, we've exceeded the 10 million mark in annual ridership, and we're on course to surpass 10.5 million rides in the year as the year comes to a close this June. As you know, our signature rapid transit project, the AMP, received great news early last month, being included in the President's fiscal year 15 recommended budget for a $27 million federal grant award. This is part of a total anticipated investment of $75 million in the Middle Tennessee region by the federal government. The balance of the funding is expected to come in consecutive years to help fund this vital project for our region. While there are no new budget dollars requested in our proposed fiscal year 15 budget for the AMP, we are now in final engineering and design to construct the 7.1 miles of bus rapid transit service. This service, as you know, will start at 5 points in East Nashville, past our Music City Central Station, moving along Broadway and West End, and eventually out to St. Thomas West Hospital. I think what's important to remember here is that the vetting process that the federal government goes through on proposed projects like this, once again, has confirmed not only the viability of the AMP project for our region, but having fixed guideway bus service with BRT is the first step in developing the necessary transit infrastructure Nashville needs to help with the anticipated growth in the Middle Tennessee region over the next 20 years. The service will not only help slow down congestion along one of the city's busiest corridors, but it will allow our citizens and visitors an easy, convenient, and reliable way to move around the city. It will also enhance safety for our first responders in the city. It will better assist police, fire, ambulance vehicles by giving them the ability to use the fixed guideway in an emergency situation in spite of any traffic congestion. I'm pleased to report that our successful BRT light services along Gallatin and Murfreesboro roads continue to perform well. It was about this time last year, with your critical support, that we expanded BRT light services along Murfreesboro Road with new articulated buses running every 15 minutes all day long to serve the busiest 16 stops between Music City Central and the Hickory Hollow area. I'm happy to say that the one-year report card is very good. As passengers now experience a faster, more convenient trip, the ridership on the corridor has increased 8.6% compared to last year and is averaging more than 83,000 rides per month. Part of MTA's 5-year strategic master plan includes having either full BRT or BRT Light operating along our heaviest traveled corridors. These corridors, as you know, would be Gallatin, Murfreesboro Road, Broadway West End, Nolensville Road, and Charlotte Pike in that order. With the top 3 of these corridors either already in operation or in final design, implementing the new BRT Light services along Charlotte and Nolensville Road in the next fiscal year just makes good business sense should the funding be available. This would be a major milestone for Nashville and would continue to improve transit choices and the quality of transit for all our citizens and visitors. Our free downtown Music City circuit also has some exciting news. Because of your critical support and receiving a federal award back in 2012, we will be receiving 7 new electric buses this fall to go into service on all 3 circuit routes. This will allow us to utilize the hybrid diesel buses currently being used on the circuit routes in other parts of our system. These buses, manufactured by Proterra, are state-of-the-art vehicles and are equipped with quick charge capabilities that will use charging stations placed at Riverfront Train Station and eventually the new baseball park as we expand our circuit service to serve the new stadium. We're confident now that the circuit will have truly a high-quality, quiet experience for the riders. We're also looking forward to helping Nashville welcome all the basketball fans and visitors to Nashville April 4th through the 8th as Nashville hosts the NCAA Women's Final Four basketball tournament at Bridgestone Arena in the new Music City Convention Center. I think that the Music City Circuit will be an ideal choice for the fans to move around the city, and we have plans to beef up all of our downtown services accordingly to ensure a positive transit experience for those visiting our city. In closing, the board and I earnestly solicit your support for our funding request this coming year. Our request will permit us to sustain our existing bus services, allow improvements to our access ride services, and put in place the BRT Light services on the next 2 major corridors in the city, as well as cover increased expenses associated with fuel, health, and pension costs. And did I mention about fuel hedging?
Yeah, I knew you were going to bring it up.
Our goal this next year is to keep providing quality transit services, complete a new updated 5-year strategic master plan to guide us through the next several years, and focus on the final engineering and design of the AMP, its funding, and eventual construction. As the MTA board and management team have pledged in the past, we will continue to provide the highest levels of quality transit services possible based on the financial support we receive. Thank you again for all your past help and support, and we look forward to working with you in the year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. You referenced that by the end of June, you believe we'll be at 10.5 million rides.
Yes, sir.
And just so for the viewing audience to understand that, rides represent
The actual person getting on the bus. It will be 10.5 million rides between MTA and RTA for the whole region. Roughly about 800,000 for RTA and MTA right at 10 million.
All right. And so a ride, if someone's making a round trip, that's 2 rides.
That's 2 rides, yes, sir.
Right. And you talked about the Gallatin Road BRT and Murfreesboro BRT Light. Murfreesboro, which is the most recent addition, the ridership's up 8.6?
8.6%.
Okay, and how's Gallatin Road doing?
Gallatin Road is actually about a 1% increase at this point, but it's a little over 100,000 rides per month compared to the 83,000 on Murfreesboro Road. So it's still doing very well.
When Gallatin Road went online, it had a fairly dramatic increase.
It did. It did. Basically consistent with what we're seeing with Murfreesboro Road.
Okay. We've also have a crosstown bus now, the University Connector.
Yes, sir.
And how is that going?
The University Connector is doing very well. It actually it connects the 6 colleges across that route and actually gives us the access to about 10 different bus routes, which what we're trying to do is create the environment for people not to have to travel back down to Music City Central, then go back out. These crosstown routes are incredibly important for the convenience of the customers to ride the bus. But the University Connector continues to do well.
Are there other crosstown routes that are under consideration?
Well, we have the Edmondson Pike Connector, which goes along Harding Place and Edmondson Pike, obviously. We do have, in conjunction with the proposed Nolensville Road BRT, to have a mini hub system which will allow some feeder services to meet that right around the Walmart, the old Harding Mall area.
Okay. The downtown circulator, you're planning already for expansion to deal with the ballpark?
Yes, sir. We're very excited about that. Having the quick charge capabilities that these new buses have, we'll have a charging station at Riverfront, as I mentioned, and then we will also place one at the ballpark, which will have it at both ends of the route and be very helpful.
And the 7 new electric buses arrive in the fall?
Yes, sir.
I'm really excited by that because I've been talking about this since the moment I wrote it. It is, people won't get how quiet these things are and what the difference it makes in the downtown or in any environment in terms of a bus. It's like nothing they've ever seen.
I can't agree with you more.
Will that is 7 sufficient for all the circulators, or is it?
7 is sufficient, but we actually are applying for another federal grant to actually purchase 2 more. Don't have that federal grant received yet or approved, but we do have plans. Not that we absolutely have to have them, but it would always be helpful.
Okay. And in terms of the new BRT light lines, Nolensville Road and Charlotte.
Yes, sir.
Could you discuss sort of how that would work in each of those streets and what the timing would be?
I'd be glad to. We are proposing right now the Charlotte Pike BRT light would start end of September, 1st of October. It's an aggressive start, but we believe we can fulfill that, and it will have about 10 to 12 stops between Music City Central and the Walmart on Charlotte, and just create a better atmosphere for limited stops and quicker service. There will still be some local service to fill in between the BRT stops, but we think that is probably the best service to start in the fall. The Nolensville Road, as I mentioned, is a little bit more a bigger project because we're planning on having, it will actually run with about 10 to 12 stations from Music City Central out to basically Harding Place and Nolensville Road. We are going to look at some land options out there to purchase and create a mini hub that will have 4 to 5 bus stops and allow some feeder services, again, for the Edmondson Pike Connector. We also would go to Hickory Hills down south, further down Nolensville Road, and then also over to Grassmere Park. And again, create that crosstown advantage for those people to utilize, but then still have the faster service to go down the main trunk line from Harding Place back into downtown.
And would there be a personal interest, a stop at the zoo on the?
There actually would be a stop at the zoo. We do have that in the.
I mean, it just seems the zoo is. It gets better every year. It becomes a larger tourist destination. It's not easily accessible, so that'd be a great thing if that's.
No, it is absolutely in the plans.
Good. Well, excellent. Greg, you got any? No. Rich?
No, sir. Good.
Well, you've obviously inherited a position where there's a lot going on.
Just a little.
Yes. I was speaking about the AMP project today, and we'll see how that process works. It certainly represents my sincere conviction that having that sort of dialogue and conversation would be a positive thing for our city. I think the ridership numbers, the ride numbers that you have talked about that have gone up steadily year after year indicate the demand that is growing here. And know from attending the RTA, the Regional Transit Authority meetings, if you look back, just from the time that I've been mayor, where I think the numbers were, 215 or 250 and something like that, and it's basically tripled or more
It has.
in that time period
It's actually up 17% on the regional bus service right now,
this year.
this year.
I mean, the demand is there, and thank you for your work, and thank you, everybody from MTA. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.